A few days ago, I had the pleasure of actually watching Inside Out 2 so early when, actually, I don't know if it was opening night. Regardless, if it was opening night, it was really, really close, and it was everything that I hoped for. If you guys don't know, of course you don't know, I'm still a new channel. Inside Out has been my favorite Disney Pixar movie for years. It took over everything out of all the Disney movies. It was by far my favorite. I just really enjoyed the movie in general. Also, it was really, really special to me because it was one of the first movies that I ended up seeing with who is now my wife. One of our first dates, not necessarily first dates, we get the point. So early on in our relationship was seeing the first Inside Out, and we both loved it. We've been together ever since. Fast forward nowadays, we're married, we have a kid, we have a family, we have a house, and it was so exciting to go see the new Inside Out 2. So I was really, really hoping it was good, and all that aside, I don't let my biases get in the way. I loved the movie. Like I said, it was everything I hoped for. It lines up just with probably the best Pixar Disney movie. And I know that's a little bit of a hot take, but regardless, we're going to talk about the entirety of Inside Out. I'm going to break down the entire plot, talk about what I like, what I didn't like. We're going to go through all of it in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about Inside Out. So, we start off the movie. Right away, we find out that Riley has just turned 13, and we know the whole movie is going to be about more emotions coming in. Puberty is going to hit Riley, which is actually a really interesting take for Inside Out. And of course, the movie begins with just the core emotions because not everybody has joined the crew just yet because Riley actually hasn't hit puberty yet. We're just reintroduced to everybody. Riley's playing hockey. Everything's all good, and we learn about this new sense of self that is a little crystal ball type thing. Regardless, Riley is becoming a person, and all of her experiences, all of her emotions, they bring her to her own sense of self. And what is happening is Joy has been kind of crafting that sense of self because she wants Riley to just be happy, which honestly makes total sense. And I really like the way that they kind of turn this into a lesson moving forward, but we're going to get into that towards the end of the movie because it's really interesting. So just like in the last movie, right now, Joy has invented some weird little junk thing to launch any bad emotions to the back of the mind just to forget. So throughout Riley's day, once she starts going to bed, once the lights shut off, Joy goes around, takes all the things that we kind of want to forget and just launches them. It's actually pretty funny. So they're sculpting Riley's own sense of self. And what's funny about it is I didn't see an issue with it at the beginning of the movie, and this is what was great about the movie, because at the end, I found myself completely agreeing, we're kind of disagreeing with Joy, or Joy kind of came out to find out that Riley needs to build her own sense of self, because there are things in the movie that happen that you need Riley to have that sense of self. You can't just sculpt it. After the whole sense of self thing and kind of introducing that, it's kind of like the tree at Avatar. We're brought to Riley playing hockey. She's just enjoying herself. The emotions kind of have their all place. Everybody is doing great. Riley wins the hockey game, or I don't even remember if she won the hockey game. Regardless, she was invited by this big time coach to try out at this hockey camp for a team called the Firehawks, something that Riley and her two friends are really, really, really eager to join. But before she wakes up, ready for the big day, for the big weekend, the puberty alarm starts going off. And this is where I found it really, really fascinating. And I thought they handled it really well. I'll talk about it now, because I was under the assumption that this being a Pixar Disney movie, they were going to take this into a completely different direction. I thought that they were, and I ask you guys with all of my heart, I say this in all my videos, do not assume anything about my own political beliefs. I keep this to myself. Regardless, I think it was fair to assume that Disney would use this opportunity to kind of push a message that they try to push and make this whole emotions thing sexual. I thought that's where they were going to go with it, because we know that Disney and the world today kind of, and I'm asking you to not assume anything about me. Honestly, please, with all my heart, I don't want to see any of those comments. I just thought that's where they were going to go with it, okay? It's a kid's movie. It's about growing up as a kid. It's about hitting puberty. I thought that's where they're going with it. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that instead, and this is what I loved with Elementals, they kind of abandoned any messaging that they wanted to tell and just focused on making such a core good movie. I loved the new emotions that they got introduced, but I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Right now, just the alarm is sounding off, and what happens is Joy ends up launching it to the back of the mind. See, problem solved. And we don't know what it is. Nobody can do anything. But we all know that puberty is coming for Riley. Now, our new emotions don't come in just yet. First, the puberty thing, nobody really knew what it was about. They thought that they solved the problem by just abandoning the alarm. It's all totally okay. So Riley's waking up and it's time for them to start their day. It's all okay. We don't know what the alarm was about, but Joy, Anger, and all of them start operating as they typically would. And Riley starts weirdly overreacting to anything. Like her mom came in and it's funny how relatable this movie's become, because I grew up with a sister. I grew up with my mom, and I had a very normal household, right? And I've watched this process happen. I'm the oldest in my family, and what's crazy about it is I've experienced it as well. For me, personally, I've experienced anger more than anything, but it's funny because I've watched a girl go through this, and I have a daughter now, and I'm expecting it. And what I want to talk about at the end is I'm very excited because I feel like this movie could be a tool to kind of explain puberty someday to my daughter. But we're going to get into it a little bit more, right? So Riley starts weirdly overreacting to everything. And when the mom comes in, hey, you excited for the big day? She's like, shut up, mom. She starts absolutely freaking out about everything. But going back to the emotions side, Anger touched the thing, or whoever was touching the thing, and was like, I barely pushed this joystick. And Riley's like overreacting to it. And then they all kind of try. So she starts going through all of the emotions, and puberty has just completely begun. Now, everybody breaks in. And this is where we were all waiting for the movie to come about, right? And it actually happened pretty quick, which I loved the way they handled the new emotions. I thought they were awesome. Perhaps they could use envy a little bit more, but I feel like then again, anxiety kind of took over everything. So, of course, the dominant one coming in is anxiety. Anxiety coming in, teenage girl, a girl who hits 13 in a situation that Riley's in, of course, anxiety would take over. So, anxiety, embarrassment, envy, boredom, those are the new emotions that came in, and I thought they were all great. I loved them. They come in. Joy and all of them are kind of like, what's going on over here? Well, the emotions don't come in right away, right? This construction workers come in. It's like, all right, puberty's here, and they start tearing up the place. They're like, no, we still need to go about Riley's day right now. What's going on? And it's crazy because so much is going on inside your body. The way that they represented this was phenomenal. So when these new emotions come in, everybody kind of has to work together. They all start pushing the new buttons. And of course, anxiety is planning for everything, which makes a ton of sense. And they all kind of have to, okay, well, you're here. Regardless, Riley's got to go through about the day, so we're here, and everything's going to be okay. So we circle back to Riley in a car ride, sorry, I had to worry about my dog being close to me. I don't know where she is right now, but she would get very excited about that word, those two words. Sorry. I just expected her to come running and jump up on me, but she must be with my wife. Riley ends up finding out that her two friends are going to go to a different school than her, and it's this really, really huge emotion. So this is where you see both joy and anxiety kind of clashing together, and Riley going through puberty at the same time. And this is kind of where sadness takes over too, because there's two ways Riley can take a look at this. Your joy wants Riley to just, hey, no matter what, we're going to have fun at this camp. Everything's going to be okay. And what anxiety is doing is anxiety is planning forward, because of course, every teenage girl is going to start worrying, okay, I'm not going to have any new friends in high school. So I need the goal for this camp to make people like me and gain brand new friends, because my friends are going to go attend a different high school. What's going on right here? And the great thing about this movie is you can see both sides. Anxiety is correct. Joy is correct. You just need to find a balance, and that's what they end up doing towards the end of the movie, and that's what I loved about it. And somehow through this entire thing, okay, I just didn't remember until this very moment, but what happened was anxiety, and this is a big thing about it, is the new emotions, anxiety especially, just wants what's best for Riley, and they think that the old emotions aren't needed anymore, because what Joy's doing is what Joy is damaging Riley. Joy isn't worried about the future. Joy just wants to live in the now, and that's a good point by anxiety, but you still ultimately need joy at the end of the day. So anxiety thought that Joy and the gang was kind of hurting Riley, so what they end up doing is just grabbing them, putting them into a vault, and what happens is, at the same time, anxiety ends up dumping the new sense of self back into the back of Riley's mind, and because they want to start creating a brand new one. Of course, Joy was the person really making that sense of self. They need to make a brand new one. So what else happened was the old emotions, and this is the weird part of the movie, the main emotions were thrown into what's called a memory vault, and this is where they introduced Patchy. I don't know who Patchy is, if it was made up for Disney, if it was an actual character, but we're going to get into it a little bit more in a little bit. So now what happens is anxiety has completely taken over, and what anxiety one needs to do is, hey, you need to just make friends. You need to get into these new Firehawk Cool Girls club. So Riley ends up trying to navigate, make new friends, but it ends up being really, really weird with just the emotions of anxiety, envy, and boredom, which is an embarrassment. So it's funny that these are the new dominant emotions that are going to come in anybody. And I'm sure, what I loved about this is we've all kind of had these moments. I don't know if I've I don't know. I was trying to think about it, but I've never had anybody that I looked up to in school. I don't want to sit here and toot my, like, I know how that's going to sound, but I've just never been that kind of guy. Like, I know how that's going to sound. It makes me sound like it's so cringe, right? But it's the truth. I lucked out a lot in my life. I had a really, really good core group of friends, and life has been very, very easy for me. So I didn't experience that, but what I did experience is anxiety. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to worry about being cool, right? Especially when you start liking the opposite sex, you end up having the boredom emotion come in where it's like, yeah, whatever. Okay, cool, whatever we can do. So point being, it's funny to see how this is so true in life. Anxiety, boredom, envy, and embarrassment all took over Riley as she was trying to make new friends. But what she needs joy. She needs fear. I don't know how much we need sadness, but she does have her place, to be fair. It's funny how anxiety, as soon as anxiety takes over, life just changes. So the only other thing to note with that is this new girl Val and how Riley's trying to impress her so much. And what also that I did like too is that the movies kind of get a little bit more about Riley along with her emotions. So long story short, her relationship with her old friends are being really strange. She's being a really crappy friend because Joy wouldn't have done that. Joy would have said, hey, we came here with our friends. We're going to have fun with our friends, but anxiety is planning for the future. It's wrong, but it's understandable. And that's what honestly makes for a good antagonist, I guess, right? So in the vault, the weirdest part of the movie, and was it called Patchy? I think the character was called Patchy, where it's like this kid's show that Riley still secretly loved and has anything that they ever need, so they end up getting dynamite from it, and everything blows up. They're starting to escape again. Joy thinks that she knows the way to the back of the mine, but everything's changed because Riley's going through puberty, and they have that tube that goes back to headquarters for the mine and end up pushing Sadness through, so Sadness has to kind of climb up while everybody else goes to the back of Riley's mind to retrieve her sense of self, and they need to bring that back to headquarters. We then cut to a little bit more of Riley playing hockey, Riley trying to be buddy-buddy with Val, and within all of that, we figured out that there is this red notebook that it has everything in it where Riley, like all the team members, who's going to make the team, and everything about the coach's thoughts are in that book, and Riley really wanted to read it, Riley with a brand new emotion. So what happens is Sadness ends up making it back to headquarters, but Riley gets the bright idea from Anxiety to go and actually break into the coach's office and read the book. Big problem here. And within that too, we also have her friendship with Grace, and I can't remember the other girl's name, just breaking down even more because she was just focused on being cool, where it's like we had that moment where they were all hanging out and they're like, oh my god, we went to a concert together, it was great. Yeah, I had a really great time. And then that kind of moment. So again, she's trying to earn Val's appreciation, earn Val's friendship, which is just so strange to me. And she's just damaging and being a really, really bad friend. But I guess all teenage girls go through it. I've never been through it myself, but it seems to be a little bit more of a girl thing. And that's what was so interesting about the movie, to be honest with you. So, like I said, Anxiety wants to read the book because if we figured out that coach isn't thinking about making the team, maybe we can train harder. Maybe everything can be better. Or we can take a little bit of a seat back because we've already made the team. Riley ends up getting up. Anxiety makes her go read the book, and she breaks into the coach's office, does a horrible thing, and what she reads is Anderson. Was her name Anderson? I think it was Anderson. Sorry. Not ready yet. That's what she ended up reading, and she was devastated. Anxiety started taking over, so she pushes Riley, and this is what Joy was talking about, like, what is Riley doing up in the middle of the night, right? To get up early, train harder, play very, very selfishly, and Anxiety just completely takes further, like, complete control over Riley. And Riley, once she starts actually playing the game, she starts being a puck hog. She doesn't enjoy the game, and that's the big thing about Joy. She made Riley enjoy hockey, right? They were having a good time, and she played well. But she ended up, because she's good at the game, she still played well, but she was being selfish. She started hitting people. She started playing hockey how you're not meant to play hockey. Anxiety is completely taking control of her, and in this new corrupted sense of self was being built, and what was echoing throughout the entire mind was, I'm not good enough, instead of, I'm a good person, which was Joy's sculpture of it. So neither of them are necessarily Riley, because again, the first one was that Joy sculptured. So in the meantime, the emotions end up making it to the back of Riley's mind, and they retrieve the sense of self. And what happens was they caused an avalanche with Patchy. They rode all of the bad emotions, or all of the negative emotions that Joy threw to the back of the mind back to headquarters. But in doing so, the new sense of self that was built got flooded with all of Riley's emotions, right? The branches started going up, kind of like, again, reminded me of Avatar a little bit. So point being that Riley's new sense of self was corrupted even more. We're brought back to the hockey game. Riley is going crazy, and Riley ends up just completely checking her friend so hard. She's hurt. She just goes in the penalty box and she starts like having a full-blown panic attack because she's sitting there not knowing what's happening. Anxiety started making a whirlpool in her mind and completely took it over. Nobody could get in, right? Because anxiety kind of like a little bit of a tornado. Everything's going crazy. And this is what was represented from a panic attack. No other emotions could get in except, right? And Riley's like sitting there, and even the friends notice that Riley's like hitting herself in the head with a stick. Riley's vision starts getting all blurry, and it's funny. It's, again, so fascinating the way that they presented this because you could see it throughout the headquarters window, right? Throughout the eyes. You can see that Riley's starting to like, whoa, and she's kind of hitting herself in the head still and just like having a full-out panic attack, and her friend is just struggling, and anxiety understands that she's responsible for creating this corrupted Riley. She's responsible for Riley being destroyed, and she's crying. She doesn't know what to do. Anxiety is, like I'm talking about the emotion. She doesn't know, but she wants the best for Riley, but only anxiety controlling things is ultimately destroying Riley. The original emotions then come back into headquarters, see what's going on, see what's happening to Riley, and none of them can break into the giant tornado that anxiety has created, but Joy somehow ends up bursting through, and she can't touch anything because anxiety is touching everything all at once and corrupting the entire board completely. And what she tries to do is she tries to talk to anxiety, and when she grabs anxiety, you can see that anxiety is crying. Anxiety doesn't know what to do. She wants the best for Riley, and she can't just do everything on her own. She was incorrect. She was trying to do her best, and what Joyce says is to just let go, let her go. And what anxiety does is, of course, just lets her go, but nothing happens. Riley's panic attack persists. Riley's panic attack is still going on. You can't just necessarily shut it off like that. So what Joy tries to do is gets out, and together they all end up breaking the corrupted sense of self that was created. And what Joy does is puts her own corrupted, you can look at it that way, sense of self back into Riley. But that doesn't work either. The panic attack is still happening. Riley's still hitting her head. Riley's still freaking out. Riley's still about to shut down. The body is going absolutely insane. So what Joy ends up doing is realizing, just like anxiety, that she can't sculpt Riley to be who she wants to be. Riley needs to be her own sense of self. So she breaks that, and you have this brand new natural sense of self that is created with all of the emotions and all of the memories that Riley has made and Joy has discarded throughout the years. So Joy and anxiety, this is what I loved about it. They did the same thing. They did the exact same thing. All of the emotions come down. They all stabilize it. They're all hugging it. All of the emotions are kind of there for Riley, and works. Riley's sense of self is being built. It's finally created. It was a long time coming. And what happens is Bree, that's the other name. Bree and Grace end up actually seeing Riley, the one that she hit to, and they come in, and Riley just lets everything out. Riley's okay. Riley is herself, and she's like, I'm sorry. I was such crummy friends to you. And she was being honest, and she was just apologizing. And I would have liked to see her go a little bit more into that, because she was a really, really crummy friend. Like, horrible. I wouldn't have forgiven that personally. And the crazy part about this movie, and I'll tell you guys right now, I'm not a crier, but I almost teared up. I fought it, man, because call me as weird as you want. I'm one of those men don't cry type things, right? But I know. Comment down below, like, tell me I'm crazy, but it's just me. I fought it down. I was able to, but I really, really wanted to cry when she was stabilized, and from the new sense of self, with the music, with the tension that was going on and everything, after Joy had, and this is something that I didn't talk about through the entire thing, is Joy ended up struggling because she's like, Riley doesn't need me anymore. Anxiety's here. Do you know how hard that is, right? You could see from the new sense of self, the little joy flakes kind of coming from it over to the headboard, and what happened was Riley was calling for Joy. That one made me want to tear up, man, because Joy, like, she's ready to play hockey. She's ready to have a good time. And Joy ended up having the nice hockey game with Riley, took over. She's enjoying the time with her friends. And that was the crazy, like, that one hit hard, man. They have the great game, a happy ending. She doesn't know if she made the team or not, but she ended up finishing because now she has all of her proper emotions. They're kind of stabilized. All the emotions are kind of learning to work together, right? They all end up playing their part. Everything's okay. She has a great relationship with her friends. She finishes camp. It's okay that everybody's leaving. She attends the new school, and the movie ends up ending with Riley end up getting a text message or an email or something, and she smiled. So it's alluded to that she has made the team, and that's where the movie concludes. I thought it was great. I loved it just as much as the first one. A 10 out of 10 as well. It's right up there for my favorite Disney movie, and I'm so glad that they've abandoned, or I don't know if they're going to keep doing it with other movies. And again, I ask you guys not to assume anything about me, but I'm glad that they just focused on making a really good movie, because the opportunity was there to turn this into a giant thing about like kids and sex, right? And that's why, honestly, I went into the movie with such low expectations, because when you start trying to just put a message into things or having an ulterior motive other than making a good movie, you see it with Marvel nowadays where the movies suffer because you don't focus on making a good movie. But what they did here is focus on making a good movie. Point being, my expectations for this movie were rock bottom. I was like, okay, not along with the first movie being as good as it was, no chance, especially with the way that Marvel's been going. Like Marvel, I haven't liked any Marvel movie recently, so my expectations were completely rock bottom. They were pleasantly surprised. I loved the movie, and I lucked out, man, because again, it was a very special day to me because, like I said, one of our first dates, my wife and I were watching the first Inside Out, and we both loved it. It's been one of our favorite movies ever since, and it holds a special memory. Now here I am 9 years later sitting with my life changing so much and the same girl still beside me. We went and watched it together, and it was just us two too. Typically we go to movies with our parents, friends, whatever. Just us two. My wife's mom ended up watching the baby. My brother ended up watching the dog. It was beautiful. It was just us two, and the movie was packed. We lucked out big time, man. This is where really like I go like, man, someone has to be looking out for me, dude, because out of all the movies, every single time you go to the movies, I don't know if you guys feel the same way about this, but somebody's coughing. There's people misbehaving in the movie. There's people bringing their kids and just having them scream the whole time. Just like, hey, I have a 2-month-old who it won't stop crying. I know, let's bring them to the movies. And people just coughing, hacking, some teenage girls sitting down on their phones, laughing and talking about something else. Something always goes wrong in the movie, and there's always some disrespectful people. Nobody coughed. Nothing. And the movie theater was packed. We sat down and we enjoyed our movie. It was the perfect day. It was the perfect experience. And what I loved about this movie is I feel like now that, because I have a daughter and I'm obviously going to be going through this, right? And I know that's years down the road, but this movie might be able to help me have those conversations, because now you can like, I can sit back and I'm like, okay, well, have you, hey, my daughter's name is Bryn. Hey, Bryn, have you started to experience anything like boredom or anxiety or envy? Are you feeling envious about anybody else? Maybe I can show her those movies, and that could be a doorway to those conversations, because something in my life is, and nothing against my parents. My parents tried to talk to me so much about this stuff, and I was reluctant to share with them for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I was bored. I was too cool to share, right? But I'm trying to think of like how, like, and I don't know, because I didn't really want to talk about anything that was going on inside of me, but I want to talk about those things with my daughter moving forward when she gets to be that age. And maybe these movies can really help me do that. Help my daughter understand how her body's changing. And maybe they'll get into it a little bit more as Riley progresses into high school. I would love to see another movie of the sorts, just going through it, because they did such a good job of portraying anxiety, envy, joy, disgust, all that stuff. It was like, it's not often that you watch movies and I can go, okay, wow, this is actually really good for kids and adults at the same time. This is something that I can actually talk about my daughter with. So thank you to the writers of this movie, man, because I think that I know I'm really early into parenthood, but I feel like that's something that I can do. I feel like that's a good route to go about it. So I love the movie. It was a special day for my wife and I, and everything just worked out. And maybe, hey, this will help me connect with my daughter down on the road. I loved it. 10 out of 10 movie. 2 10 out of 10 movies in a row. I watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, now this, and I'm watching Invincible 2, which is also a 10 out of 10 if you want to consider it a show. It's amazing, guys. Let me know what you thought about Inside Out down below. Thank you very much for watching. Just like I mentioned, though, if you're interested in hearing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and me dive into it just like I did for this movie, check it out right here, guys. I will see you over there or in the next video. Take care.